Welcome to Wise Beyond Bitcoin, where you come for education, analysis, and opportunities in blockchain and crypto. My name is Lucas.
I'm Jacob.
And okay, well, we did just post recently a few videos out on some opportunities. Of course, we've got the A-Star shooting potential, and they're currently in a Polkadot parachain. Now, what we're talking about are layers built on layers, right? When we look at these parachains and we look at all these protocols being built, and what many people don't recognize is the fundamentals of this technology. Regardless of what blockchain you're on, layer one solutions, smart contract platforms share their limitations. And we've done some videos in the past, and you've shared the technical side of this. And this is one of our educational analysis technical side. But if you like this kind of stuff, you get insight into which protocols will be of potential value and of service in the future. That's the best part of getting a better understanding of that technical side, is you really have more confidence and understanding of the need and the value of different protocols moving forward. You get a more clear picture of the shortcomings, right? It's like when you understand how automobiles work, then you feel the understanding of, oh, I see windshield wipers or headlights, or how these different things can really improve upon it and make it safer and more efficient. So with that being said, you've talked about ZK Snarks, Jacob. You've talked a lot about layer twos and the inner workings of them, but this is basically a very comprehensive article and an overall look that you want to go through on layer twos. Is that about right?
Yeah, and I just want to give a shout out to a couple people. If it wasn't for Polyana, if it wasn't for Cryptocanti, if it wasn't for DC Builder, a lot of this information wouldn't be out there. And it's really cool to see that people inspire each other within this space. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them. You can follow them on Twitter, because that's where all of these resources are, is Twitter. That's where you can find a lot of this information. And so you can look up Polyana right there, Polyana. You could look up that amazing work. That is actually the person that we quoted specifically on the modular blockchain versus a monolithic blockchain, talking about layer twos, talking about DAM, and talking about other layer twos like ZK Sync, like Arbitrum. These are all people that and all protocols that I personally look into, and I would highly recommend others look into, just to learn about the world of information that's behind them.
What were the names of some of the other two that you mentioned? Oh, you just froze right when you said crypt. Zoom, take it out.
Cryptocanti.
Crypto Conti?
Yeah, Canti.
Found it.
Yeah, right there at the top. What's cool is seeing developers in these space, like, they genuinely do engage with you. I've engaged a few times with these people and asked questions and learned just from being able to communicate with them. And I feel that having that engagement with these people in this space, talk to developers, talk to the people building protocols, follow them on Twitter, follow their social medias. You might learn something.
And would you learn me the third of these people that you're giving a shout out to?
DC Builder.
Is this the one right here?
That's the one. And I just want to give a special shout out to DC. Not only did they take the time to educate me specifically on the optimistic virtual machine, but they also genuinely gave me a ton of information. And on top of that, they're the ones who wrote the article that we're going to be talking about today. So it's just a little special shout out.
Well, extra shout out. Thank you very much, DC Builder. And that's so much about what we get excited about and have been, and what inspired us really, Ryan and I, and Jacob, you as well, to join and to talk about this technology, is the potential that it has to change the way we do things, to make the world a better place in so many ways. It's like when you understand how automobiles work, you see how this is going to revolutionize traveling, transportation, communications, supply chain. So much was and many people can see that this technology has that a potential is great, if not greater, to really have an impact that ripples throughout the world. So that being said, thank you very much, DC Builder. Thank you very much for living to make the world better. A full stack dev 20. Bless America already. Amen. So and thank you, Jacob, for your research and for getting out there in tweet world and tweeting and figuring all that stuff out and showing me the ropes on this. But right now, what you also like to talk about, and you've been excited to talk about this. So without further ado, this is where I timestamp the ultimate guide to layer twos on Ethereum, but make that caveat as we get going, because it actually is not just about Ethereum. Is that correct?
Yes. So you could think of it like this. Think of it as layer one as a Lego floor, right? Everyone who played with Legos knows that you have a Lego floor that you put your Lego house on top of that you use to build. The Lego floor is layer one blockchains like Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, any one of those layer one blockchains. Layer two is where you get into these scalability solutions that scale layer ones even further. And these layer twos are needed. So this isn't just a guide on Ethereum. This is a full comprehensive guide of layer twos and how they're going to work in other spaces as well, especially spaces that we've already covered. Like, great example, Shiden and A-Star. Another great example would be Matter Labs and their products.
And anything EVM.
Yeah, and anything EVM, ZK EVM, OVM, any of it, any of it.
Very
Just
cool.
all
So
of it.
with that in mind, this is the ultimate guide to layer twos, and understanding that layer twos play a role in the future of blockchain and crypto development, period. Layer ones are foundations, and they may be competitive in their own right at being very dynamic, but there's still will be a need as the world onboards and more people use it. There will be a need for these layer twos to take the load, to take the burden off the foundation.
Big time, big time. And so without further ado, let's get a little deeper into this article. So to give a little bit of background, DC Builder is a developer in this space, and so they have a little bit of knowledge within this space as a developer, And so this is an article that they wrote just all about layer twos. Just again, I gotta get that little shout out there. But the TLDR, too long didn't read, is that most users won't even interact with Ethereum mainnet, to be honest. It's only going to serve for data availability for layer twos. So it's going to be the layer where all of the transactions are being processed on layer one. That's where that layer is going to be. The layer on top is going to be the execution layer, where everything's being done, where everything's being verified, kind of your consensus and your execution. And so that's just kind of like a quick rundown of that. Web3 applications have better user interfaces and will have a lot of the abstract kind of burnt away. You won't need to know what this hexadecimal code means. Like, what is that? Why will I need to look at this particular thing or that particular thing, which is going to be great for onboarding new users. New users aren't going to have this weird abstract complexity that they're going to have to deal with, this just mess. They're going to deal with a nice, simple point and click GUI interface that most people are used to from Microsoft, from Amazon, from Google, from all these different places that they're used to going. It's going to feel just like a Web 2 website, but it's going to have all of the meaning, all of the functionality of Web 3. And that's the interesting thing about this scalability with layer 2s. A great example of a scalable layer 2 that has a great interface, in my opinion, is going to be ImmutableX. So just got to kind of throw out that example. So there are many different types of layer 2s. The two main types of proofs that they have are going to be validity proofs, which they're basically mathematical proofs, right? They utilize zero knowledge cryptography. And so a great
Hey, brother,
labs is building.
go back to zero knowledge cryptography.
Oh, it skipped.
Yep, just a quick sec.
Yeah. So validity proofs are proofs that use zero knowledge technology in order to ensure validity of a transaction. A great example of that technology, Matter Labs is building it with exactly that technology. That's what the Ethereum, the ZK Ethereum virtual machine is. And so a fraud proof, these proofs introduce a so-called time delay. And once the proof is submitted, the validator has time in order to mark the proof as invalid or prove that the state is incorrect. And so it kind of rolls back this to the state of the latest valid snapshot if it isn't valid. And with that comes different issues that aren't faced from zero knowledge, and zero knowledge has its own use cases outside of that. And with fraud proofs and validity proofs, they each have their own little pros and cons to understand. And so it's interesting to kind of compare these. So you can think of a fraud proof as like Arbitrum or Optimism. Those would be fraud proof examples of layer 2 solutions. Or even Shiden and A-Star. And then just to kind of, they give a little bit of an example, Optimism, Plasma, ZK Rollup, Validium. And
this
so
is very comprehensive. This is a beautiful article at really getting an understanding of layer 2s and the roles they play, the different layer 2 solutions.
Oh yeah. And I think it's really understated how important it is to know the difference between a modular and a monolithic blockchain and their infrastructures. A monolithic blockchain is what we would typically see as like a single layer approach to the scalability trilemma issue. They focus on one or two aspects of the scalability trilemma and roll with that. And that's it. That's all they do. Whereas a monolithic modular blockchain, not a monolithic one, but a modular blockchain, that's a blockchain with a layer 2 scalable solution. That's a blockchain that has its consensus mechanisms split from its execution layer, so that way each layer can focus on certain parts of that trilemma. You could have your layer 1 focus on scalability and decentralization, and your layer 2 can focus on the transactional throughput and security. And so you'll have these two particular layers focusing on one or two aspects of the scalability trilemma. And it just goes to show that these answers that we're starting to get to the scalability problem, they're starting to come rolling in. And so this is a technology that is needed to be understood if you really want to see mass adoption being put out through the world, this is the technology that could onboard not millions of people, but 1 billion people. At least in my opinion, and in the opinions of the developers who work with these scalable solutions.
Yeah, I see right here, roll-ups and data shards emerge as the only solution meeting these requirements. That's why a modular architecture is the only long-term feasible scaling approach. And earlier, I noticed in the article, Ethereum outwardly states, we're not even, and as far as the trilemma is concerned, what we're optimizing for, we don't care about scalability, right? We optimize for security and decentralization while working on scalability as a lower priority item. To be clear, scalability is not the main priority of Ethereum, of core Ethereum developers. And that's just Ethereum. But the reality is all blockchains have to compromise. And that's the whole point of what's called the trilemma. But then again, as you've talked about before, and if you want to know more about it in more detail, that we have other layer 2 video where Jacob goes into this, the solutions from ZK snarks and ZK rollups and optimism and all that good stuff. But let's keep going. I know there's a little bit more you want to go through. The current state of layer 2s, how users can benefit, an incomplete list of layer 2s, optimistic rollups, Arbitrum. So in this article, it gives you a pretty good list, but not complete, of different layer solutions.
Yeah, and so like optimistic rollups are a great example of a layer 2 solution. And so it just kind of goes into, this article goes into who it was built by, gives a couple examples of different layer 2s. And again, a great place, a great resource if you want to learn more about layer 2 solutions is L2Beat, which is linked right there. I would highly recommend going to L2Beat, looking at some of the transactions that were taking place across L2s and looking at the money flow in and out of these layer ecosystems, because at the current moment, they're all competing to scale Ethereum. And it's interesting to see these scalable solutions all competing, especially when you have something like DAM, which is linked right here, which we've talked about previously, an automatic market maker that allows you to bridge liquidity from all of the layer 2s that use a zero knowledge technology. And so
that's cool.
It's extremely interesting seeing that you don't just have developers who are thinking about the technology, but they're also thinking about the economics of how this money system is going to work in the future. They understand that locking liquidity across multiple layer 2 solutions is going to be a problem, because people will have to bridge back to layer 1 and then back to another layer 2. To be able to bridge from layer 2 to layer 2 to layer 2 allows for a velocity of money to go in within this ecosystem, which is just as important in my opinion.
Well, speaking of what you just said, and to that importance, even Arbitrum, which uses the fraud-proof time delay of 7 days, that's their mechanism. They say for scalability solutions, even they will use, and you mentioned this in our ZK, in our other, I forgot the title of that video. Well, do you remember the title of that? But it was about layer solutions. Shucks, it was probably something about layer solutions. Check it out. Have fun searching if you're interested. But the point is that one of the aspects in the article is that when you start working with layer 2s, they can work alongside each other, right? Like you can work with multiple layer 2s and they can operate simultaneously. So you can have several layer 2 functions operating off of one base layer. They don't have to operate one after another like a chain. They literally can operate simultaneously. And it's our Arbitrum is mentioning that they announced they will release other scalability solutions based on ZK proofs.
Yup.
which is
And which is awesome because you've got
yeah,
a team not on one type of proof, but another type of proof. You have them working across the tech spectrum here, trying to provide the best products that they can while being competitive.
totally.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, optimistic, Arbitrum, fraud proofs. Okay, OVM, the optimistic
This
virtual machine. Hello, that we've talked
this
about
is
too.
something that I am so happy to see because this ties into Shiden and A Star because they use the optimistic virtual machine. It's the
Mhm.
virtual machine that allows them to be interoperable with the Web3 assembly, with WebStack, with the EVM, with the Lightning Network, with all of these different, basically most things in the Web3 ecosystem are interoperable with an OVM. And the thing is it's not a zero knowledge proof. So it has its drawbacks that it gives up for that interoperability.
Mhm.
And so it, we're still seeing some things at play where you have positives and negatives to certain aspects of these scaling solutions. But it's amazing to see this technology answering these questions that we have, like how do we scale? How do we solve this problem for mass adoption? How do we keep everything decentralized? And these are all important questions to be able to be asking. And I love that developers in these space are not only knowledgeable about the technology, but also they think about the future so far ahead. Um, so far ahead. Just it's amazing to be able to interact in this space and to learn more in this space.
Well, I'm glad that you do, and I'm glad that you share it with us. No, I agree. I agree with you. And there's so much to learn. So, and by the way, that's a good time. And we'll do an intermission as we move on to zero knowledge rollups. Are you ready for zero knowledge rollups?
Yeah.
So this is educational information. This is not financial advice. We of course I don't we're going through a technical article, so I don't even know if that we'd have to make this disclaimer this video, but what the heck. Uh you know,
Make it.
let's just make it this is not financial advice. We're not here to add your vices. And I don't know, most financial advisors aren't messing around with zero knowledge roll-ups and all that good stuff. So this is new technology that we're all learning to speak and understand together. If you're just now learning about it, it's the beginning. If you've been in it for several years, you understand that it's come a long way, but it's still just getting legs and still just getting up from crawling. And this is the beginning of a dawn of a new era of a technology that will ripple out and revolutionize, innovate economies and the way we as men and women communicate and exchange and coordinate markets, many other things, um, for for a while, for as long as we have a lot of these technologies around electricity and so forth. So it's a beautiful thing, and it's beautiful to understand how, when you understand how early infantile this technology is in developing to be set for the world to use for adoption. It's really fun to get that technical understanding of where the needs are, right? Where the scalability issues, the interoperability issues, when you recognize that, oh, okay, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polkadot, name your layer one solution. Regardless, they'll all be faced with the trilemma. They have a different approach to the trilemma, and they're all going to be using some form of these technologies, these layer twos, several layer twos that are built to handle scalability, layer twos that are built to handle, fraud, fraud proof, other forms of making sure that security is strong. When you have many people you have to increase the strength and the security of the network. So they're foreseeing, like Jacob said, they're foreseeing that people who are developing these networks, they're looking at the math, they're looking at the algorithm, they're recognizing the probabilities of many different functions there, and they're building on the foundations as we speak. The foundations are working and running, and the layer twos are being built on them as well. And another one of them is called zero knowledge rollups, or here we got a list of ZK rollup layer two solutions. So we did a video on this. I know you talked in detail about this, and this is one of those beautiful aha moments where you recognize that this is something that is going to be of service and of value throughout many blockchains in crypto.
Oh yeah, and so ZK rollups are extremely improved. They're important, and I'm about to explain why. So the problem that we have typically with, let's say, like the optimistic rollup solutions is the fact that that does rely on the security of mainnet of ETH, it has the drawback of the time delay, really not allowing for liquidity to be able to funnel in and out. And it has a few security issues that ZK rollups don't have as well. I'm not as technically versed to be able to explain exactly what those security issues are. They were explained to me, and it is some higher level development minded things that I don't personally understand because I don't have a development background. But what I understand about zero knowledge proofs is the fact that they look at the scalability trilemma in this inversive way, where you have the main chain focus on security, and you have it also focus on decentralization, just completely forget about scalability, and you have your layer two focus on scalability and security. And that is exactly what ZK Sync is building and what they're trying to do. And they've Matter Labs have thought well enough ahead to be able to not only develop this technology, but also think about building the toolkits for their virtual machines, how people are going to be able to use certain codes and certain compilers. And so it's extremely interesting because I actually got to talk to Angelfish during an AMA and ask her about the interoperability of their solution. And it was awesome being able to learn that you'll be able to write smart contracts in Rust. You'll be able to have your smart contracts from Solana, from Casper, bridge over into their ecosystem. You'll be able to write typically in the native Ethereum is Solidity. That's right. Yeah, Ethereum is Solidity. I mix up the name of the codes a lot because there's just so many out there. But it's insane. And with their solution, they also have the ability to be an entire virtual machine. And so any of the smart contracts deployed and already developed on Ethereum will be able to port right over with little to no overhead. And that's amazing to think that these scalable solutions are thinking that far ahead of not only are we scaling, but we're making it easy for the builders in this space to be able to utilize the tools that we're creating. And I think that the reason why I wanted to just shout them out was just because my own personal bias with being able to be involved in their AMAs, being able to be involved in their ecosystem. There are other amazing layer twos out there. Another great one would be DYDX. If you're looking into layer two exchange, they're actually currently right now functional. I did find out that if you live in the US, you can't use them. So unfortunately, I cannot use them. So I can't say anything good or bad about it with my personal experience. But to anyone in the audience, that's what a VPN is for.
And then
Another,
maybe you could experience it and share that with us.
oh yeah.
Starknet, are you familiar with that?
I'm mildly familiar with Starknet. I have had a few people like Polyana talk about it on Twitter, and I've read about it, and I'm interested in ZK Snarks. I'm interested in learning more about it. I don't know enough to form a personal opinion about the ZK technology that they're using, and I genuinely don't know enough about this particular layer 2 solution. I do know that they're highly anticipated. That's all I can say about that.
Well, that means a lot to me.
There's some other ones that I have not heard of, like Poly Hermes. I understand that Polygon was going to have their own version of ZK rollups, and that was actually something that they had written up all the way as far back as last year, when they actually first allowed you to bridge over from Ethereum to Polygon. ZK rollups has been in their roadmap for quite a long time, but I just personally haven't done enough research on the implementation that they're particularly using. And same with the Aztec network. Again, I've heard of it. I have followed these people. I'm not of the development mindset, so I don't particularly use things that don't have active usable exchanges or something on them, unless I'm interested in the technology, in the case of like ZK Sync. But with Loopring, I have used Loopring before to provide liquidity, and Loopring is honestly an awesome layer 2, in my opinion. Really easy, really smooth. I think layer 2s in general are just going to be a lot smoother than layer 1 experiences, because you're scaling whatever your layer 1 is. You're just multiplying that. And when you have blockchains that are sharded, it's allowing each one of these layer 2s to be able to operate on different shards. So even if there was, let's say, an attack on the layer 1 network, well, you can attack one particular shard, but without being able to attack every single shard within the layer 1 blockchain, you're not really going to be able to affect the layer 2's ability to perform. And I think that that's a great point to make up that was expressed to me by a developer. And that, I think, is amazing, because it just adds to the level of security that modular blockchains have that monolithics don't. Monolithic blockchains just don't have that level of security.
Look at this, brother. I'm listening to you and I'm watching how Loopring is. And I remember Loopring from back in the ICO days of 2017. And it's just fun. It's beautiful to see these projects that have continued to develop and provide a service and grow in the crypto blockchain world. They are, well, the dam, which you have spoken about and talked about. They're collaborating between Starkware and Loopring to build a cross L2 AMM. But the team, they're also working to, I guess, expand their wallet to other layer 2s and to be compatible with these chains. You've spoken of A Star, we've got Akala, Polkadot parachains, Harmony One, Moonbeam. So that's just amazing. This is just another example of how this goes beyond just Ethereum. That's my point, is that this is just one of the layer 2s, Loopring, and you can see that the work that they're doing is compatible and to be of service and use on many other layer 1 blockchains or layer 2. So this is good stuff. This is a great article. Of course, we will link the article below. Do your own research to be your own bank. DYOR BYOB. love Loopring. I love the growth that they've had recently. Wish I, you know, would have been a more active participant in their community. But you know what? There's so many cryptos and blockchains out there, and it's great to participate and diversify into many. This is not financial advice. This that you enjoy, that you feel have a service and a value, because I do feel that many will grow in the future with this technology. That being said, many of them will not. And it's a very high risk, high reward environment for sure. And the volatility is ever present, especially with the volatility in the overall market in general, which we do often put little videos out on economic news and market data. So if you like this kind of content, technical information, and if you like market information, how it applies to blockchain and the world at large, and you like technical information, because we've got how-tos on providing liquidity and how to participate in DeFi, web wallet how-tos coming up, and other good stuff. I'm sure Jacob wants to put some how-tos and work with NFTs and other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't forget, hit the subscribe, the notification bell, thumbs up, all that good stuff, and drop a comment, because there's so much technology. It's growing so fast that we can only take in so much, and we definitely thrive on the love and the support of all those out there in the community. So if there's a project you're aware of that you want us to take a look at, or another aspect of a project that we're talking about, another layer, something being built on a chain, please feel free to drop it in the comments and let us know, and we'll take a look at it. And shucks, we may even just make a video about it and give you a shout out.
Oh yeah.
So Validium, off-chain call data. Okay, are you familiar with Validium, Volition, Starkware? Oh, ImmutableX.
I'm not familiar, but if you do want to familiarize yourself, all the documentation is actually above in ZK Sync's comparison right there. So if you actually you just scrolled past it a little lower.
Oh, it's down. Oh, here we
Yeah,
go.
right there. Yeah, ZK Sync's comparison. You could go ahead and click that link. You could go ahead and read through it. It's a detailed explanation of the differences and comparisons between ZK rollups, Validiums, and personally, this is where we get more into the developer side, where I just don't have an understanding of it yet. I want to have an understanding of it. So I've been reading through some documentation. There's a lot of information that I still need to sift through. And so if you ever feel like this is a lot of information, it's great to come, because we try to make that information small and digestible for you.
Absolutely. ImmutableX NFT layer 2. You know about this guy.
Yup, and it's amazing in my opinion. The fact that you have this NFT layer 2. I actually was waiting for ImmutableX to come out, because I used to play this game, Gods Unchained, and I say used to, I still kind of do, not as much, but it's basically a card game similar to like Magic the Gathering, where you have these cards that you're playing and they cost mana, and you get a certain amount of mana per turn, that kind of like card game aspect.
Mhm.
But what's cool about it is they're NFTs. Every card is an NFT, and they are now on ImmutableX, allowing you to be able to avoid the gas fees while being able to play the games that you want to play,
Wow.
being able to support these creators of these games, to support the creators of these NFTs, whether it's an art project, whether it's a game. You can now have NFTs on these layer 2s rather than paying these exorbitant ETH gas fees.
I'm familiar with what you speak of, and I actually remember in school younger, I remember the days of these youngins playing Magic the Gathering cards, and I do remember that. Actually, I remember being one of them. I actually played Magic and enjoyed that. Had some friends, and yeah, so I can see the value of that in NFTs, because having preventing counterfeit and having cards that that are rare and of different value and that can be exchanged. That's huge benefit to have. I can see the value in that world. So that's a great, and of course, when you want to have utility and use them in a game level, you need transactions to be low. You can't use it on a network where it's, $50 or $20 or $100 to send a transaction. It needs to be on a layer where the transactions are almost free, right?
And with the ImmutableX, they are. That's the amazing thing that I love about their platform. That's only possible because of ZK rollups and a very specific ZK rollup technology. Comment below if you know which one that is. Hint, hint, quiz time. But if you can do me a favor and scroll up a little bit, there's just one last thing I wanted to touch on. Yeah, there's a very specific ZK rollup technology I wanted to mention called ZK porters. Where is it? Right there. So ZK porters are insane propositions for scalability. The security of a ZK porter is still better than any layer 1 blockchain currently out, or any side chain. In the worst case scenario, a malicious actor controls both the sequencer and over 2/3 of the total stake. They can sign a valid state transaction, but withhold data. In this case, the state is frozen and users are not able to withdraw, but the attackers is frozen as well. So there's no direct way to be able to financially benefit from attacking and using that exploit. And it just goes to show that with these layer 2 solutions, they're solving exploits that we could think of. ZK porter, imagine a ZK porter solution on a sharded blockchain where attacking multiple shards really isn't an option. Being able to freeze funds isn't really an option. And so you kind of have this amazing level of security in a real decentralized ecosystem, allowing for decentralized money. And I think that's where I want to end it, is that at the end of the day, this is technology to make decentralized money a real thing to positively affect each and every single one of you who've been affected negatively by economic effects. Every one of us has been in some way, shape, or form. We've all been negatively impacted by our own economies and by these governments, these centralized governments that have control, centralized control over our money systems. And so we don't have these often market forces that are working naturally when you have a money system that's inflating constantly and there is no deflationary pressure.
Absolutely. It's great to be able to see how this technology can move us past the limitations of the previous, institutions. They've served us in well up to this point in many ways. And now we see that, there are problems, there are limitations when you have to make decisions on such a grand scale over the economy, over monetary issues, and have it be politically controlled and have it be separate from one nation to one nation, and subject to such fragility. So being able to operate on transparency, on protocols that people can understand, right, versus the opposite of transparency, where people don't really understand how it works, how much money is being printed, what's the rate, what's the reserve ratio, and which banks can inflate based upon the debt and the assets that they're holding. And it's very convoluted and complex. But when you move to a system, a protocol that's built on security and transparency and all these layer solutions, we're talking about mathematics and algorithms and being able to build on, at the end of the day, Bitcoin, really Ethereum, Bitcoin, these layer ones proved how blockchain technology, how this can, but you have to have a trilemma first before you can have a layer 2 to work on fixing it, right? And so it's beautiful to see how far the layer ones have come and what they've shown is possible. And now we've seen layer 2s being built on these layer ones and working for a little bit of time now to take it to the next level. And like I said, we're still in the beginning. And so it's beautiful to learn about this and to share this knowledge, because the people that are working for the institutions that got us here are still in it just like we are. We all are born into this world and trying to understand it and figure it out and move it forward the best we understand. And this technology is just so new. So it is definitely important for us to be patient with ourselves and others, and to take the time to learn it, do your own research and check it out. And sharing is caring. So share this with people that you know will benefit and take a look at and love this stuff too. And this is a beautiful article. Thank you, Jacob, for sharing this information on layer 2s and taking it to the next level for blockchain and crypto. I'm a huge fan of, we don't talk about trading and how to game, the markets to get rich. Although we do look for ways to build value with just kind of these macro long-term hodl perspectives and looking for blockchains and crypto that have potential to be around for quite some time. And part of that is really understanding the technical side of how this works. And when you do, you appreciate these solutions. If you don't understand the technical shortcomings, then you don't appreciate these solutions and see that they're necessary. But once you do, you're like, oh, wait a minute, we do need some solutions. We do need a windshield. We do need brakes. We do need a lot of things to go with this, So this is beautiful. We will link this article, and we will link the L2Beat website, and a shout out to all our new tweet followers. And then no, we're following them. No, we're following them. So thank you guys for helping educate and build the foundation for all of us out there. And this is the L2Beat website. I guess we could finish on this just because I know we've looked at this before, but this is just such an amazing resource, Jacob. This is just so cool, man. Look how L2Beat will show you layer 2s, the beat on what's going on in the layer 2s. It'll let you know optimistic rollup, ZK rollup, Validium. It'll let you know plasma, what's going on, the name of the platform and what they're using, the value.
It'll even show you the risks.
Oh, yeah, but
yeah, it'll even show you the risks.
Click on the risks and it will show you the risks. So pretty cool website. You might want to check this out. Something else to look into when you're, oh, wow. I dig it, man. This is pretty cool. I need to take some time to get a key to read this, but it's still a very, I can see that the volume as layer 1s grow, naturally the total volume locked on layer 2s will grow as well. And Loopring, Boba Network, don't know about that. We'll need to check that out. ZK swap. Okay, there's so much we need to check some stuff out. So we better wrap this video up so other people can check some stuff out. This was a great catch up, good technical video on layer 2s. Thank you, Jacob. Anything else you want to say before we say?
Just again, real quick shout out, DC Builder, Polyana, and then Cryptocanti. got to give them a quick shout out.
That's it, brother. Until the next time, have a beautiful day. Namaste.
Later.